believe I don't believe there's anyone else here at this moment. So I'm gonna, unless someone jumps in who I haven't called on yet, I'm gonna ask and ask 5 minutes of questions myself. Dr. Bosch, as a former member of the BP Deepwater Horizon Oil Spill Commission, you know, I mean, an unbelievable amount about offshore drilling regulations. Question I am, and what has come up, especially since the oil spill in California, is that the federal government already requires pipeline leak detection technologies and regular inspections of pipelines in the Pacific, yet we still experienced a disaster that led to the release of thousands of gallons of oil in the ocean. So I'd like to kind of understand, from your point of view, potentially what went wrong. But the more concerning to me is, and there are only, I believe, 200 and some odd miles of pipelines, and yet we require the oil companies to do their own internal inspection. And I believe it's, I don't know if it's Bessie or Bone does the external inspection, external observations and oversight of these pipelines, and whether it's internal or external, it's done every year. Well, every 2 years the external, and every 2 years the internal, but they're done in different years so that there's some oversight going on all the time, every year. Dr. Bosch, are you concerned that of the thousands of miles of active pipelines in the Gulf, there is no subsea monitoring or oversight?
Yes. First of all, there is a requirement for pressure sensors to see if there's a leak in the Gulf as well as in California. But there's no requirement for routine inspection of the
How
pipelines.
come?
Well, it's a
Why
good
is there
question.
routine inspections
It's a
in
good
the?
question. In 2007, the Minerals Management Service, before Boehm and Bessie were divided, had draft rules that they were proposing to promulgate that would require more advanced technologies for pressure sensing and leak detection and monitoring of pipelines. And they were released in draft but never executed because of the industry concerned about cost, feasibility, those sort of things. So they never got forward. We didn't look at that particular that rule in the Deepwater Horizon Commission, but we did look at the similar rules issued about the same time regarding drilling safety. And the same thing happened with those. The Minerals Management Service proposed these rules. It was pushed back. They were never executed. And so it was, in fact, after the Deepwater Horizon blowout, that some of those proposals were actually implemented, but it took that kind of an accident.
But it took a Deepwater Horizon crisis to implement some of those rules.
Right.
But there were other rules that were just to regulations for public safety, pipeline safety, security, that were just overlooked. Just the oil and gas companies.
There was opposition. They weren't executed.
Was there any support from the communities around there who were most impacted by the oil?
You know, the one thing you have to understand in the Gulf, it's not like California. There aren't a lot of people living along the beach. People don't see it, number one. Secondly, it's a very important part of the economy. It creates jobs. So there's a different view and relationship that's held there. But the main thing is I mean, it's largely out of sight. You know, it's well offshore. It is not a lot of people living right along the shore. So it's really a different climate than in Southern California.
Thank you, Dr.
It's an important part of the economy as well, so that's important.
Right. No, I have visited. I agree. I truly do understand that the differences in terms of the importance to the economy that oil and gas have. I was just wondering if you, in your experience, had there been any opposition by people in the community? But I understand that last point that you make. Ms. Savitz, yesterday our committee passed HR 2643, the Offshore Pipeline Safety Act. My question is, do you think the enactment of this bill will help prevent future offshore offshore pipeline disasters and protect taxpayers from having to pay for the removal costs?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, thank you so much for that. It's very important that your bill becomes law because it would certainly help. The Department of the Interior has been sitting on a rule that would improve oversight of pipeline operations since 2007. And your bill would require that rule to be finalized, including requiring third-party inspections of active pipelines, more modern leak detection equipment, and ongoing monitoring of decommissioned pipelines, which, we've talked a lot about today, all being things that are simply not happening now.
Thank you very much, and I'm going to yield back and